why schools need to stay closed. This is COVID and the classroom.
We must apply downward pressure on that upward curve by closing the schools.
Hi.
We will take a phased approach in terms of reopening schools.
We're going to go up the stairs, keeping 2 metres. You'll be able to see where your table is.
I think it would be very unfair for the students to be marked down on the basis of what historically had happened at the school.
The government's U-turns on GCSE and A-level.
Feeling quite happy about coming back to school, although I'm quite stressed.
Over 85% of primary schools will be opening as absolutely as expected on the 4th of January.
The government is once again instructing you to stay at home. Primary schools, secondary schools and colleges across England must move to remote provision from tomorrow. We will not be able to reopen schools immediately after half-term. We hope to begin opening schools on Monday, March the 8th.
Everybody is just finding this so difficult, and you just feel like you're failing at everything, failing as a parent, failing as an employee.
Well, remote learning and homeschooling is now something that many families know all too well. Boris Johnson has said he hopes it will be safe to reopen schools in England from the 8th of March. According to the government's scientific advisers, children are unlikely to get too ill from coronavirus, but they could be transmitters of the disease, and teachers, even more their parents, could be at risk. Now, after nearly a year of disruption, there are increasingly loud warnings that the impact on mental health and education could last for years. So, lots to discuss. Tonight we have a live panel of students aged between 5 and 17 years old, and some parents too. Throughout the programme, they'll be telling us their stories about remote learning, and for some of those who are still going into school, what it's like to be one of the minority. Hello to all of you and welcome. And over here we have our panel of experts. Clive Searle, who is a head teacher at Worthington Primary School in Sale in Greater Manchester. Justine Greening, former Education Secretary and founder of the Social Mobility Pledge. And Dr Benagta Dubitska, Chair of the Child and Adolescent Faculty at the Royal College of Psychiatrists. Welcome to you too, and we'll certainly be getting your thoughts in just a moment. First, though, let's go to Maya, who is 11 years old, has just started secondary school and lives in London. Maya, second time you've been off like this, certainly. How's it been for you then this time? How are you coping?
I've been finding it quite easy because we have a lot of live lessons, and the teachers are very understanding of all of our different situations, and they're really kind, and everything's kind of normal, but not normal at the same time.
Absolutely. It's still difficult, though, when you can't see your friends, even though you perhaps see them on remote learning devices. But do you feel like you are getting behind? And do you worry about that?
Sort of, because I know me and a lot of my other friends are staying till 6 o'clock, still catching up with work. But I think our school's very good at checking that we've done all of our work, we're uploading it, and if we haven't done enough, the teachers will talk to us and they'll ask us if we're okay and if we need any extra help.
Well, they sound like they're being very generous and supportive, don't they? That's good. Maya, thank you. In a moment, we'll be speaking to Lauren, who has 2 young boys, Frank and Bill. But first, here's a look at their typical day at home.
Good job, everybody.
Hello, I'm Lauren. I've been homeschooling Frank, who turned 4 in the summer. He's only started school in reception this September.
8.
I also have a 2-year-old running around, which makes things challenging at times. It's lunchtime here at homeschool. The boys are having their sandwiches. Feeling quite lucky, actually, that I've been furloughed from my hospitality job, because I don't know when I'd find the time to work. I think little and often is the key with a 4-year-old. So we're going to put on our wellies and go for a walk.
Oh yes, the endless meals, certainly. Lauren joins us now on your own because Frank and Bill are in bed. Well done for that. It is seriously hard work, isn't it, with young children? You have all our sympathies. Are you finding that you're getting anything done with your oldest boy who's at school?
Yeah, we are, because the school has been so fantastic. I was really anxious when I heard the schools were closing. I didn't know what I was going to do, but the school have been so brilliant. We've had online videos of lessons, that's 3 times a day. There's resources we can physically pick up from the school. So it's actually not going too bad because of that help, but it's still very challenging at times.
Yes, challenging is the word we hear often, is it not? What about, do you have sympathy for those parents who are not furloughed, who often find they almost have to start their working day late at night and work into the night to catch up?
Yeah, I just don't know how they find the time, really. My husband works full time. He's still working from home. I've been furloughed, and it's actually been quite helpful to have that time, because where Frank is only 4, he needs me to be with him. He's not independent enough to log on to lessons and stay sat down. You know, he needs that one-on-one help. So yeah, if I was working, I just think I'd be working so late into the night to get my work done.
Well, Lauren, we'll hear more from you a bit later on. For the moment, thank you very much indeed. So have you seen the burden has fallen on many parents to homeschool their children? Some, though, are able to use remote learning methods on video calls like Zoom, but the communication does vary hugely from school to school. And it's feared that some children from more deprived backgrounds, perhaps, are slipping behind, with many families having neither the kit, the electronics, or even the internet connection to make it all work. Well, let's bring in one family who had to build up the basics then before they started, Haj and India in Essex. And India, let's go to you first of all. I know that you're 13, just at the age you want to see your friends. Is that the bit you miss the most, you think, about not being in school?
Yes, the social aspect of school is something I've really been missing. Just hanging out with my friends, FaceTiming them, it's not the same. But also, say, like physical activities, saying science, stuff like that we can't do over Zoom is really, I'm really missing it.
Yes, I bet you are, and so many children are across the land, aren't they? Do you find you can concentrate? It is very challenging when everybody seems to migrate to one room. They certainly do in our household. Do you find you can get on with the work? And the question to you too about, do you have fears for the future about being behind where you should be?
I have been, it's very hard to motivate yourself, but I have been sitting down at my desk and just getting my work done. If I have to stay later and catch up with some work, I'll do it. The fear aspect, it is scary because I'm doing my foundation year of GCSEs. So it is scary to think I'm starting my GCSEs, I'm not in school, but hopefully everything will calm down and we'll be able to go to school soon.
And Haj, what about you? Just very quickly, did you have to set yourself up for all of this remote learning again?
Yeah, well, you know, India coming home, we've got the whole family at home now, so everyone's working from home, isolating. So yeah, we've had to go in and upgrade the broadband and you know, get new devices and various other bits and pieces. But I must say, it's been, you know, a tremendous effort from India's school, and the support we've received with regards to the teachers have just been absolutely fantastic. And I think the stories likewise across the other panelists, whereby the teachers have gone above and beyond. So yeah, well, I'm certainly grateful for the teachers' support because actually being in lockdown with the kids at home is an amazing eye-opener on how much we actually do rely on teachers and how much teachers actually do.
Well, let's see if our head teacher is smiling, shall we? Haj and India, thank you very much indeed. Let's bring in then Clive Searle, head teacher at Worthington Primary School in Sale. You must be delighted to hear that. But it's families juggling, isn't it? It's schools juggling too. You're dealing with those who are home learning and you've got kids in as well. Have you tried to accommodate more children this time round, recognising that it is really beneficial for them?
Oh, certainly, Anne. Yeah, we've gone from an average of about 25, 30 children in the first lockdown to 180 this time round. So that's a massive change. And you're right, because the juggling of the blended learning, as we might call it, you know, the online offer and the in-school offer and the paper at home offer is tremendously hard work for every member of staff that works, not just in my school, but across the country. And I'm delighted, and I would be so proud to be the head teacher of those young people that have just spoken there, that they remain so positive. And I think that is such a huge key to this. And as a school leader, I say to every member of staff that's working right throughout the country, throughout this pandemic, every school member of staff, protect yourselves, keep strong, and know that you're doing an absolutely brilliant job. And every good school in the country is doing just that right now. It's very, very difficult. You're absolutely spot on, but people are working flat out all of the time. And certainly for my staff, I could not be happier or more proud of them.
Well, you're speaking up for everybody there, aren't you, Clive Searle, or Mr. Searle, I should probably call you. Let's bring in then another child, shall we, who has just moved up also to secondary school. Salik, aged 11, so in year 7. And I know, Salik, that it is really tricky going to a new school, harder still to make friends in the age of COVID, where playgrounds are all separated and everything, aren't they? Now you're stuck at home. Do you feel that it's been quite hard? Sally, can you hear us, lovely?
I can.
Yes, can you hear him? I was just saying, it's a bit tricky.
I find it.
You go.
Yeah, it's been quite tricky for me because I've got a little sister who sometimes distracts me during online lessons. And there's also the Wi-Fi goes out and things like that. So, and I get distracted quite a lot. So, yeah, it is quite hard for me.
Well, I bet it is. Salik, thank you very much indeed. It's a big delay. This is the world of homeschooling, I guess, isn't it, as well? Let's bring in former Education Secretary now, founder of the Social Mobility Pledge, Justine Greening. Everyone's having different experiences, aren't they, Justine? Children have different needs also at different ages. And on top of that, the fear that the most deprived are simply the most disadvantaged through this experience.
That's right. And I mean, first of all, a massive thank you to all of the work by teachers like Clive and around the country. It's been incredible what they've done. And as he said, now having to not only teach at school, but also manage teaching remotely as well. And we should say a big thank you to them and also parents like Haj, who are no doubt exhausted at having to homeschool, but doing their best, and people like Lauren. But we need to recognise that children will have had very different experiences through this, what has now been nearly a year of disruption of education. So coming out of that, what we need is to make sure we give schools the support they need to catch up properly. So in no way should we shortchange that. We need to make sure they have absolutely the resources they need to help their children catch up where that's necessary. And I think longer term, we need to recognise that if this is a government that wants to do levelling up, then we need a framework for that, some levelling up goals, but education is absolutely going to be at the heart of that. And I think what no one wants is for this generation of amazing young people to pay the longer term price for having been part of this COVID pandemic. I think the final thing perhaps to say is that there's been a lot of lost learning and teachers have done their level best to minimise that. But there's also the fact that children have been out of school, missing their friends. You know, there are mental health challenges that they face as a result. And we need to not forget all of that as we look ahead to the kind of support that young people and children will need to help them get beyond the damage that this pandemic has brought.
Well, I mean, definitely some good messages, and the Prime Minister definitely talking about the money for catch-up learning yesterday. Justine Greening, thank you very much indeed. Well, let's bring in then one mum who certainly has her hands full, Sadif Najmi, mum of 6. Hats off to you. And you're joined by some of your children. Who have we got here then?
We've got Sumaya, Safia, Hawa and Ikra.
Do you have to be really well organised? I have to ask you that.
Extremely well organised, yeah, definitely.
Any secrets for people? Because they'll be dying to know how you manage.
You know, every day we take each day as it comes. We have to take each day as it comes. We don't look too far into the future. Just we wake up every morning and think, right, today we're going to get through this, and then we wait until the next day and do the same thing again.
Well, if I can grab a word with a couple of your girls. Hawa, let's talk to you first of all. Are there any good bits about being at home?
What do you like about being at home? She's probably happier at school, where she can see everybody at school.
Absolutely. Well, let's ask your older sister then, Samaya. You're 12, aren't you? What do you most miss about school then?
What do you miss about school?
I miss seeing my friends, and I miss doing like actual lessons because we have to do them live now. So, yeah.
And Ikra here, you're 5, aren't you? I'm guessing that you're in reception. Do you miss your teacher?
Your teacher, Ikra?
Yes, you do. What's mummy? Is mummy as good as your teacher? How's mummy?
Mummy doesn't have as much patience.
Well, honestly, we know that, don't we? Thank you very much to all of you, the Najmi family there with 6 children at home. Well, there we go. More of your thoughts from our panel in a moment. First, though, to another home video. You might recognise this one. 11-year-old Braden is a presenter on Sky's FYI, the news programme for young people. Braden, like many others, is forced to do his schoolwork from home, and he's been documenting his day for this programme.
Now, we're just going to kind of show you, me and Kira, what a day in a life is like in lockdown with us. For me, my morning's not that bad. I've got my tea and my toast, bagel in fact, and I've got German and then English. So that's my morning. Kira, what's your morning like?
I've got maths, Spanish and spellings, but the thing that I'm most looking forward to is my Zoom, where I can see my friends and my teachers.
Good morning. Now we're out in the garden getting our steps up. Come on, Nick. So it's the end of the day, just finished my last lesson and I just finished a call with my friends. It's obviously not like being at school, but we're still getting on with it. And to be fair, I've not had a bad day.
Oh, good for him, Braden and Kira there, thanks to them. But of course, schools are not closed. Children of parents who are key workers are still able to go to school, along with children who are considered vulnerable. Well, let's bring in Faith Oliver then. And Faith, you are 17, currently in year 12. You're still going into school. Does it feel a strange experience for you in these somewhat empty classrooms?
Well, we're not actually in the classrooms, which I know is a similar experience for most people that are still in school. We do virtual learning, but in school. So I sit in the pastoral office and do online lessons with about 10 to 20 kids in.
Wow, so you're not even going into the classrooms then. And do you get any interaction with other children, or are you quite separated off from people?
We're socially distanced from people. We're allowed to speak to them, but it's wearing your masks, getting tested, making sure everyone's safe.
And it's your age range, isn't it, that have really found this hard. It's a time where you'd be going out on your own, you'd be going to parties, you'd be meeting all sorts of new people. Have you found it tough? And if so, what's been the toughest bit?
I think for a lot of young people, the impacts of not being able to go out and see people, face-to-face contact for so many people is a big thing. The impacts of having to keep up with so much schoolwork when you're at home, when people have such difficult home circumstances that aren't always picked up by schools. I know a lot of young people actually that don't have access to the internet. My college have had to give out 700 laptops that they've had to pay for out of their own money because the government haven't supported them. And 60% of the students at my school are in poverty. So they're really, really struggling with online resources to the point where college are having to send them notebooks so they can write down what they're doing. And I feel like the biggest difficulty for most young people is the fact that actually we are not getting any clarity off the government. We have no clue what is actually going on with our exams. We don't know when we're going back. We don't know about uni applications. So the support that we're getting off teachers is excellent, but the information being relayed to us by government is shocking.
Faith, we wish you the very best of luck, obviously, and there's a lot of concern about your age range and everybody trying to get some normality as we head forward, but best of luck. Thank you very much indeed. Well, let's bring in another family now, also benefiting from schools being open, a family who did homeschool first time around, with twins who both have ADHD, both in year 5 at primary school, found it tough the first time, found that progress was really difficult for those children at home, as I have to say, many of us did. So let's bring in Dad Mark alongside his twins, Eleanor and Reuben, who are 9. Reuben, let's go to you first of all. Is this better than the first lockdown? Are you glad you're going into school?
Yeah, because I'm playing with friends and learn something new every day. Whenever I get stuck on something, Miss Hampson always helps me, and I love going to school.
Oh, that's good. And what about you? And I think I might be pronouncing your name properly. Is it Elena?
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Right. And so what about for you then? You're going to school. Is it quite a relief, do you think, that your parents, Dad next to you, doesn't have to teach you anymore?
Yeah, because I get to see my friends and my teachers.
Oh, dear. What subjects have you been doing this week then?
Maths, English, science and history.
Very good. That's why I'm amazed you can remember. I can't remember what I did yesterday. And Mark, the twins were both home for the first lockdown. I know you struggle to make progress. Does it make such a difference for them going into school right now?
It's absolutely huge. I think having children with special educational needs, as well as sort of trying to homeschool, it just became apparent really within the first few weeks of that process that despite all our best efforts, it just really wasn't going to plan. As parents, we just felt that we just weren't able to provide them with the right sort of educational support that they need. And around that time, we spoke to the school. We explained the situation, and then between ourselves, we just came to the strong conclusion that for Reuben and Elena, for their development, they are better off in the school setting. Have to say straight away, it worked fantastic. They had their routine and structure back straight away. They were able to sort of, be with their friends. And over that particular summer, their grades or their learning remained, from our point of view, an excellent level. So the teachers, the school at St. Peter's were absolutely amazing. And it really was a saving grace for us as a family. I do have to say that, my instinct tells me that, each one of us has our own different situation to sort of manage, really. And it just, it became clear to us that that was the best, situation for our children.
Mark, just very briefly, I know you've got a question for the panel as well. Go for it.
Yeah, certainly. All it is, if we're entering into more potential lockdowns over the next few months, does the panel feel that it may be a good option to develop a national strategy specific for vulnerable and send young people?
OK, let's put that to Justine, if you don't mind answering it very briefly, because we've got lots more to pack in.
Yes, absolutely. I think parents of special needs children need to have the reassurance that if this happens again, there'll be better provision in the future.
Justine Greening, thank you very much indeed. Good. Well, the issue, obviously, of mental health is one of the key concerns, isn't it? That anxiety, the stress, the downright loneliness for some children has been a key concern. And today came the suggestion that the mental health impact of the pandemic could last for years to come without a large-scale increase in support for young people. That, according to a new report from the Children's Commissioner, Anne Longfield. Well, the report estimates that 1 in 6 children aged between 5 and 19 had a mental health disorder last year. That is up from 1 in 9 children 3 years ago. Referrals to children's mental health services are also up by more than a third. Well, before we speak to Dr. Bernadka Dubicka, Chair of the Royal College of Psychiatrists, let's bring in Esther. You are 15 years old, Esther, in Year 11, and you sought support, didn't you, after the stress of your mock exams? Tell us how you were feeling and what you did.
Okay, so I was really lucky to have help and support from Action for Children, who gave me coping mechanisms and strategies in order to feel less stressed and get on with my day better. They came into my school for 6 weeks. I was in their programme, and they just put us in small groups so we didn't feel as intimidated, and helped me realise that I'm not the only one who's struggling, and helped me feel more secure within myself.
Esther, thank you very much indeed. Much appreciated for that. Well, let's have. It is tough, no doubt. Let's bring in now our Dr. Dubicka. You've heard some of the children there. I mean, many of them are coping really, really well, aren't they? But there are concerns about being behind, the pressure on school. Exams may have gone, but you're still worried about every piece of homework you hand in. What do you think the main problems are and how they should be tackled?
Yes, thank you for having me. It was great to hear from all these children, young people, and there's a huge variety of experience, as you've heard. But I really want to highlight the plight of the most vulnerable children, young people. So firstly, most children, young people will be okay. They will get through this. And we've heard some of the resilient children this evening. But there are an awful lot of children, young people, as highlighted by Anne Longfield, who are really, really struggling. So even before the pandemic, we know that we weren't treating 75% of children, young people with mental health disorders. And we've seen that demand has just escalated. Referrals are coming into CAMHS as never before. They're at the highest peak ever. And it's absolutely urgent, as Justine has just said, we really do need an urgent task force about how we're going to address this issue right here and now, but also looking into the future, because the sooner we can intervene and help these vulnerable children, young people, the quicker they can get better and the quicker they can have their life chances brought back for them.
Dr. Dubicka, thank you very much indeed. Well, from all of us here, we wish you the very best of luck. Obviously, a big thank you then to all the students and parents tonight. Thank you to you. Thank you too to our panel of experts. Much appreciated. And if you enjoyed today's programme, there are more discussions like this on FYI the week.